I'm doing a little history today on my family. Today is March 27th, 2016. I'm up here in the Springhill Cemetery in Wellsville, Ohio. This is my grandmother, Garnet Lulu Byers. Maiden name, Burton. She was born in Marietta, Ohio, and she came up the river sometime around 1924, 1925, because I have the marriage license of her and my grandfather, dated 1925. So as you can see, with the 1905 and her first son, I'm unable to track his father. She was 17 years old. And the story goes from everyone that in my family, she would tell them she came up the river from Marietta, Ohio to Wellsville, Ohio with all the money that she had on a bus. So in about 1924, 1925, you can imagine what Route 7 looked like. It's probably a dirt road. It's 2 hours in today's travel, but back then I'm sure it was much more. So my theory is, and it's not 100% sure, so having a baby at 17 years old, I think she might have been put out of the house. Nobody knows why. She came up the river. I don't even know how you come up the river in a bus and get out of a bus with what kind of money could you have at 17 years old? How do you meet somebody? I mean, times were different back then. People were more helpful, more friendly, not like in today's society. So she had a lot of struggles right from the get-go. I'd love to find out the father of Harold. He ended up with the last name Byers. He worked over at some Stevenson Foundry in Wellsville, and he lost an arm. I don't know much. I have a picture of him at home on the computer. I don't know much about him, except for the picture. My dad always said he was part German. He was a real handsome guy. I mean, he looked like one of those movie actors. It seemed like a lot of people back then looked like movie actors or actresses. And he was a big, strong fella. And he lost his arm. For some reason, he was over in the Maslin, I don't know if I want to say hospital or a mental health clinic, but anyway, he lived over there for 10 years before he ended up passing away. And I don't really know the real story on why he passed away, because as you can see, what is that, 29 years old. And he passed. So, medicine was a lot different back then, not as good as today. Or, my dad said, I don't know if he was interpreting with his own words, but he said, went crazy. So, I mean, people lose limbs all the time these days, for various reasons, but, if you're there 10 years, I don't know, why you had to go crazy? Wouldn't that be like first year or so? So, I'm not real sure on the whole story there. My grandmother, she loved to play bingo. Her and Louie. They used to go to bingo all the time. She's only about 5'2", 5'5". Oh man, could she make vegetable soup? She used to make. She had 5 boys the time I was around. She passed away when I was 11 years old. I can't remember having too many conversations with her, but she's very lovable. She made homemade Jell-O. Put them in little bowls in the refrigerator, so when us little kids came over, you know, that was our treat. It wasn't like Reese cups or, you know, Snicker bars. It was Jell-O. Jell-O in her fridge. Icebox is what they called it back then. She lived at 307 1st Street, Wellsville, Ohio. The house is no longer there. It was run down, never taken care of. It didn't look like. I have pictures where the porch is falling apart. But now there's just a grassy lot there. Oh, she made them rolls too. Them round aluminum. I don't know if they were aluminum back then or not. Maybe they were steel. Little round pie plates. Oh man, we get the homemade vegetable soup in old coffee jars. And she'd send them home with the kids, and she put the rolls in extra bread sacks. That's just the way you did it. You didn't go out and buy a bunch of packaging stuff. You just used stuff that you had. I don't think Tupperware was even around then. But she was a hell of a nice person. She went through a lot of tough times in her life with people dying, and her parents, Mary and William Burton, Burton, of Marietta, Ohio. And when you start doing family history, you find a lot of Williams and Marys. That gets confusing. And to top it off, they're married. So you got like 4 or 5 couples, the same first name, in the same city. So that's about all I know on there. Looks like the foundation's been moved, or the headstone's been moved off the foundation a little bit. One day I come down here in the summer, I'll have to straighten that up. Over here is, probably can't read it real well. My shadow doesn't help either. Or maybe it does. This is Ronald Byers, born 1926, died in 1946. And as the story goes here, he was home on leave from the military. There's his war heart medal. He was home on leave, and he was coming from Liverpool down to Wellsville. And I got the newspaper clipping. And what it says is him and his buddy, he was a passenger in a car, and they clipped a telephone pole while getting off the exit or somewhere down there. And he had head trauma. And my dad told me, I don't know how true it is, I never have any doubt to doubt my dad, but he had a screwdriver. The glove box popped open, you know, one of them old cars, you know, 1940s. Went through his forehead. Now, I got a picture at home. I think it's him. We're not even sure. But I'd love to see another photo of him. So that would be another uncle of mine, Ronald. And grandmother and other uncle, Harold.